It is time for a new tier list video, but before we start, these are not the updated tier list, these are the ones from my last video, and throughout this video I will change out Pokemon and their places depending on the patch. In theory, we had one of the biggest patches of our time. I think we never had this many Pokemon be changed in one patch, but I also want to talk about the patch in this video and why are some of those things that don't matter and are a complete joke. As always, at the top we have the top and bot path tier list. And to this side of me, to the right of you, to the left of me, we have the central area tier list. And I'm going to keep bringing this up right here. We're going to go through all of these Pokemon and we give them new placements, or of course keep them the same placements, and talk a bit about the buffs and nerfs as well. So the first one is Serena. Serena reserved a few buffs and nerfs at the same time. Storm Beam, the better build, is definitely a bit worse than before. I would say Storm goes from like A to B+. While Triple X actually I think is solid A to maybe even A+. I think Serena needs a bit more time to really understand. There's still a lot of CC in the meta, so I think A is still quite fine. But the Triple X buffs, you saw a video earlier, I posted 190,000 damage, the most damage I've ever done on Serena. And Triple X feels quite good. And of course the sheet is where you get more from Dropkick, and Grassy Glide is definitely also nice. I think Serena is just still a bit too vulnerable early game. It needs level 6 to get going, and it can still be bursted down quite fast. Next up, we have a Buzzwole with a Smackdown buff, which I think is actually quite nice. And it might not seem like a lot, but Buzzwole with a Smackdown sometimes just lacks a bit of damage for the, KO or something. I'm gonna move him up to B+. The lunge buffs are one of the most worthless buff I've ever, read. Nothing we have to think about, just enemies have a bit less attack damage for a bit longer. It's just one of those passive things that maybe it can decide the game, right? That half a second, 1 second more can decide the game, but in the end, it's really kind of a joke of a change. Inteleon, even though Inteleon got buffed, he's actually nerfed a tiny bit due to the fact that he was, I think, bugged for a long time, where Inteleon went down and respawned. He did more damage for the rest of the game. And the Face Stinger buffs are useless. Acrobatics buffs are also kinda useless, even though I do like, of course, Acrobatics Liquidation being a bit better. And more defense and special defense really doesn't matter at all. So even though they got buffed, I'm gonna say playing Attacker Pokemon right now in general just feels bad. If you play Attacker Pokemon, you have a terrible time, I feel like, in Unite. It's very rough. There's so many things that just completely destroy you. Even supports just run you down, right? So the more I play Inteleon on this patch, the more I hate it. I have such a hard time winning games on it. And it's actually going to drop down even further into the tier. I think like 2 months ago I said at S tier or something, but now it's just going to keep on falling. Because again, Attacker Pokemon just don't really feel good. Also, I forgot for Serena and Central Area, I think it's a bit better now. I'm going to move it up a tier. Stomp needs stacks very badly. I think Triple X can also go without having too many attack weight stacks. And if you just get a fast level 6, level 7, level 8, Triple X can take over games and just be a complete bully. So this has chances to actually be quite good. I'm also going to play some Serena Central Area and let you guys know how it's going for me. Buzzwole, they're going to stay the same in Central Area, and Inteleon as well. I'm going to move down, even though of course we had a buff to Liquidation. It just doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's hard to play it anyways right now. It's too squishy and really doesn't do as much as I would like it to do. But again, do we really want it to do much more? I don't think so, because point and click is not really fun, right? Is it? Up next we have the Decidueye, and the Decidueye buffs, I mean, they don't matter at all, right? It still gets bursted down quite a lot. I think the Decidueye in Central Area is not bad though, and it does help against a bit of poke, against a bit of burst damage. But you can see the meta's quite brutal, right? We have Darkrai, Leafeon, Mimikyu, Electrode with Miraidon, like Zoroark, Dodrio might be back as well, Gengar, Absol, like Talonflame, Aura, like there's so many things. Urshifu as well that gets to him. It's very difficult without a team to play the Decidueye. I actually haven't tried the buffs yet, but defense and special defense buffs are just like one of the most boring things to try. It's like, yeah, I went into a game, I couldn't really tell how much my defense and special defense did more, and the game's over. I'm like, yeah, so guys, defense, special defense buffs, the Decidueye OP, and make a video about it. Like, I'm not sure what to do. I will still try more Razor Leaf, and as well as you guys know, but yeah, defense and special defense buffs really don't matter all too much, but of course it can be nice, and if it helps you getting bursted down, which I don't know if it really does, you're still so squishy, it can definitely be a game changer. If you just live on 1 HP a bit more often, you can just straight up win games, right? Up next, we have Cramorant with one of the most useless buffs of all time. And nothing else to say there. Surf Plus, now slowing a bit longer when it's already a stun. So after the stun, like Surf slows 1 second longer. Yeah, again, I mean, this patch, again, we had so many changes, and some of them were just absolutely horrendous. Cramorant is pretty bad right now, I would say. Like, I really don't like it. I think I'm even gonna put it down into C tier in Central Area. It has lost so much value. The dive nerfs it got on the last patch, actually, I felt like quite brutal. And Cram was already not played, and now I don't see Cram at all. And laning phase as well, yeah, Surf, like, in general, Cram, even though it got a buff, again, attacker struggle, it just feels worse and worse the longer the patch goes on. So moving it down a tier in both top, central, and also top and bot path, or central, whatever you want to call it. Chandelure, also with a special defense buff. So, yeah, not really. So, this is my problem with the devs as well. They buff things, and you're not gonna wake up more in the morning, take a look at your phone, see, oh, Pokemon Unite, they dropped a patch, let me check what the patch is, or Chris dropped a patch video. Let me see what it's about. Oh wow, Chandelure got special defense? I'ma hop on Unite and just play some Chandelure. No one in the entire world is going to do that, because Chandelure got it. Maybe one person in the comments right now, let me know if you got out of bed, started your Switch or phone, hopped into Unite to try out the special defense buff with Chandelure. Let me know. So, stays in the same position, I think, again as well. Only in B, because playing attacker Pokemon right now is a struggle and continues to be a struggle. What do we have next? Dodrio with a Drill Peck. It's pretty good. The thing is, I think Dodrio is not going to change in position, just because its best build is still Tri Attack and Jump Kick, and that one stayed the same, and that one is still very good, easily A or A+. I could even probably put it A+ in top and bot path, but I'm going to leave it at A. So yeah, Drill Peck is now just closer to Tri Attack, but Tri Attack Jump Kick is still the best build that is at this position. Then we have Talonflame with a Brave Bird plus buff, which sounds quite ridiculous though. Like, it is quite ridiculous. You have 75% damage reduction if you hit 3 targets. 1 target 25, 2 targets 50, 3 targets 75% damage reduction. The only problem is it comes in at level 13, which honestly, that's still quite fine, because you will be level 13 unless you play it wrong for every single final stretch, right? So that is still quite huge. If in the last final fight, which in Unite still assigns 9% of the games, it is quite insane to have potentially 50 to 75% damage reduction. You go in, you do a bunch of damage, you can't get bursted down, you will probably go out, you can get a second rotation in. The thing is, I don't think it's better than Fly still. Fly overall through the entire game is just still an absolute monster. So also I think Talonflame's position doesn't change, but don't underestimate this Brave Bird buff. You will get to level 13 for every late game fight. The problem is maybe sometimes it can be a bit rough to get there still, of course, but if you play jungle, level 13 should be quite easy, and you can always have this up. But of course, if you miss Brave Bird, it's bad. If you only hit 1 target, 25% is not going to make a difference, but 50, 75, 2 to 3 targets can definitely be quite insane. Next up, we have a Scissor, or Scyther, actually, not Scissor. I was baited as well. I was like, when I looked into the patch notes, it said Scissor, and it said more healing. I was like, man, that is nice. Scissor getting more bullet punch healing, and then I had to take a second look to realize it was actually do a wing beat. For top center, I think nothing changes. Scissor is just not a good top or bot path Pokemon necessarily. It's okay. If you played well, it can definitely be up a bit. Actually, maybe it's B+. Honestly, I think Scyther is really underrated. It's a good Pokemon. It's just no one wants to learn it, no one wants to play it. But I think B+, with a bit more healing as well, is definitely deserved. And I think in Central Area, I think A is also deserved. It just, if you're good at Scyther, it's definitely up here. If you're just like me, I mean, not like me, but like the average Scyther player is probably more like down here. It's definitely Pokemon least practice, it's very unpopular, but if you play it well, it is quite good. Then we have, and of course Scissor doesn't change at all. Scissor is absolute garbage on this current patch, so I'm confused that Scyther got a buff, and Scissor stayed the same. We have Clefable, and Clefable's buffs are, I think, gonna put it up again, and by at least 1 tier, from B+ to A. Gravity Lore cooldown, Follow Me also stunning half a second more. Half a second shouldn't be underestimated on Follow Me. And 1 second cooldown on Gravity is also quite insane, especially for late game fights. So Clefable definitely got, something this patch that is not too bad. Then we have, what do we have next? Sableye buffs do not matter at all. Stays the same. I think personally Sableye is not that, like, Bs might be a bit low actually for him. I think Sableye is actually quite good, so maybe I'm gonna just in general put it up to B+, not because of the buffs, but just because I think Sableye is probably better than B tier. It's just also Pokemon, you have to know what you're doing, but once you know, this Pokemon is absolutely disgusting to deal, with. Delphox got a special defense buff, is good for bursting down, but again, pretty boring. and Flame Charge Plus. I made a video about it today, but let's be honest, the buffs as well just make no sense. It is nice to get across the map. So the buffs are good if you're running across the map in late game and to kite more team fights. If you miss a Mystic of Fire in a team fight, it allows you to reposition better, which, again, those plus things matter for the last team fight, which is still huge. Again, last team fight matters a lot. So if you have Flame Charge Plus, half a second longer now you have the move speed after using Flame Charge Plus. In case you miss a Mystic of Fire, you can reposition better. In case you hit a Mystic of Fire, it doesn't matter because you're already jumping to the next Flame Charge. Like, it's again a buff where Timmy just doesn't think much. Maybe it's just the buff for, again, when you miss it, right? It's supposed to be, you miss Mystic of Fire, your Flame Charge will not get lower cooldown, you gotta wait a bit, you can use the move speed to reposition. I think that's what the buff is for, and if it's for that, it makes sense, and it doesn't really change their Fox position though whatsoever. I think it's still gonna be, it just takes long to get going. You need level 11, level 6 on the first gank is pretty rough, you are so prone to getting invaded. Point and click is very prone right now still. If you play against Darkrai, Mimikyu, and Slowbro, which I do every single game. Also Psyduck being meta, which is terrible for a cooldown reduction build, makes Delphox just still be a mid Pokemon, sadly. Metagross got a Meteor Mash buff, which I think doesn't matter because Gyro Ball is probably still better, but I do like it. I think Meteor Mash is known maybe also B+. Compared to before, I do like I think the 1 second cooldown also shouldn't be underestimated, because the biggest issue of Meteor Mash is that its cooldown is too high, so any cooldown reduction it gets is useful, and I think that's totally fine. Doesn't change its position though in my entire ranking. Now let's head to my favorite part of this video and my favorite part of the patch, the most confusing nerfs of all time. We start with Sylveon. Sylveon, the nerf Mystic of Fire, and they nerfed Draining Kiss. I'm already headed in B tier. I don't know if it's C tier now. I think, even though it got nerfed, maybe it's like C+ now. In Central Area, though, definitely, I think it's now just absolutely bad, because it just lost more damage again. Hyper Voice is still quite mid as well. I think Hyper Voice is B, doesn't matter what. But nerfing Mystic of Fire Draining Kiss, which was already a negative win rate build. I'm not kidding. Mystic of Fire Draining Kiss had a negative win rate. Actually, I made it right here. I made this picture a while ago on a post on Twitter. And you can see that Mystic of Fire and Draining Kiss had a 49.9% win rate. Mystic Fire Draining Kiss. So, yeah, and look at some of the other things on this as well. Like, they're nerfed. It's actually hilarious if you think about it. They're nerfed. Half of these nerfs are negative win rate builds. They don't even have above 50% win rate. There's one Solar Beam thing right there. Mystic of Fire, Ground Garchomp, Dark Pulse, Tyranitar. There's also Crustle barely with a positive win rate on this build. And Psychic doesn't have a bad win rate, but still, of course, it's like, I don't know, this is just from duos and trios, kind of, I think, playing together maybe, that it has like a 51% win rate. Wigglytuff as well being nerfed is ridiculous. Like, I'm going to talk about those positions in a bit as well. So again, first we had Sylveon now. I think it could down go to C, but I think Hyper Voice is still at least B tier, so it's fine. And Central Area, I wouldn't recommend Sylveon whatsoever right now, unless you're double jungling, then it can be fine. But as a primary Central Area Pokemon, I cannot recommend Sylveon right now. Then we have Crustle. Crustle getting nerfed, definitely dropping down a tier. Absolute nonsense. I don't know why they nerfed Crustle this hard. I know he sees tournament play, but my god, they gave him 5 nerfs. Stealth Rock, X-Scissor, some cooldowns on Unite move as well. Rock, like, absolutely ridiculous. Like, the nerfs to Crustle are a joke, and yeah, made me very mad. Tyranitar, already in D tier right here. I'm gonna move it down as well. Like, we're nerfing Tyranitar again for no reason. Now I don't see any reason to play it. It was already quite mid again. It's only like, I mean, Tyranitar's a Pokemon that if you hate having fun, you play it. Because I literally don't understand how any of you would like boot up the game and even play Tyranitar to begin with. It's so miserable of an experience for such a long time. You need level 9, and even then you kind of get bullied around a lot. You might get, you know, you're strong in the last fight, which matters the most, but I just don't understand how you want to even play this character actively. So, yeah, they nerf it. Wigglytuff being nerfed, which puts it down as well. Don't ask me if they nerf Wigglytuff. Makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, it's one of those nerfs that just make no sense. Venusaur. Venusaur, like, they nerfed Solar Beam, so I'm going to put it down to B now. Solar Beam apparently was too oppressive. Again, Attacker are bad on this patch. Attacker Pokemon are one of the worst roles in the entire game on the current patch, even though, you know, your teammates always pick 4 or 5. Playing Attacker Pokemon, every time I play them right now, I feel regretful after the game. You can't, if your team is bad, and then we have oppressive Pokemon, you are in a bad time. You have a bad time playing this game. In Central Area, with Giga Drain buff, I think Peladance goes back into A, but only for Peladance. Peladance and Giga Drain, I think, especially in this heavy melee meta that we have, right? And with 5% more damage reduction, definitely I think can go back into A tier. So I think that's quite solid. While in top and bot, it definitely drops down a tiny bit though. Next big nerf that is just an absolute offense to the viewer base, the player base, not viewer base, player base. Machamp! Machamp finally sees a bit of play, and I'm also going to drop it down a tier. The funny part is right now that Timmy doesn't even realize that they nerfed Machamp's plus as well. Dynamic Punch Plus went from 20 to 12% attack damage increase after using it, right? The only problem is that baseline it gives 15. So now Machamp lost, once you pick Dynamic Punch Plus, you lose 7% attack damage. So once you go to level 11, and you level up to level 11, and you click Dynamic Punch Plus, you lost damage. That's how ridiculous this patch is. I don't know if they know about this, if it's bugged or something, but Machamp definitely dropping down a tier, and also here in Central Area. Absolute joke. He literally loses damage upon going to level 11, and picking Dynamic Punch Plus. Absol getting a Pursuit nerf, which I think doesn't matter. I keep it in the same position. Yeah, I think Absol is going to stay the same position. Doesn't matter. The half-second Pursuit nerf doesn't. I don't think it matters at all. Mr. Mime, nothing changes. Stays same position. For me, an A tier right here. Garchomp, they nerf Ground Garchomp. They also nerf Baseline or like Drain Garchomp a tiny bit. Now the combo is a bit more annoying to do again, so I'm going to drop it down a tier when it comes to top and bot path, and I'm also dropping it down a tier in Central Area, because it's a minor thing, might not be much, but it's a nerf regardless, and, you know, makes it Garchomp a bit weaker, even for the Dragon build. Then we have Leafeon, which I think it doesn't matter. Leafeon is just a disgusting Pokemon. Needs more nerfs. It's crazy how Leafeon and Umbreon got like a slap on the wrist while they're S-tier Pokemon. So their position doesn't change. Blaziken, I think also doesn't change, and Psyduck doesn't change. So the 4 Pokemon that I have in S-tier are still S-tier, even after the nerfs. And Pokemon who were like A or B plus tier are now a tier lower. So overall, pretty solid patch, I have to say. Let me take a look around if there's anything else I want to swap around. But I think overall, I think this tier list is still quite accurate in my opinion. I think Armarouge drops from A to B+. It's definitely a bit weaker than before. And Espeon, I think also B+, I think is a bit more fair. Again, Attacker Pokemon are not in a good spot, and I'm going to stand by that as well. Besides the rest, I think everything looks quite fine. I think Phalanx is pretty good right now, but you have to last pick it in draft. Azumarill I like a lot, but can be very difficult to play. Besides that, I think Lapras, to me Lapras is A tier. I think Mamoswine is also seems still pretty good. Ho-Oh could also be worse actually. It's just the revive can be game changing. Besides that, it's quite okay. And up here we have all the broken supports. Down here, not much changed, right? Of course, we're going to get Tinkaton in a week as well, which might change a few things around, but I don't think it will. I don't think it will out too much. I think Zacian is getting a bit of a revival with Metaclaw, but at the same time, the Metaclaw changes, I think, down, or like Metaclaw being good doesn't really matter too much. I think it's still the same for Solo Q as well, but honestly, it feels better than I think, so A+, I think for Zacian is fine, and for Central Area, I'm putting it into S tier again. Also for Central Area, I'm putting Urshifu with Wicked Blown to S tier, as it has one of the highest win rates of the entire patch, and definitely deserves up to be a bit higher. Armarouge also I'm dropping from here to A+ to A, just dropping him a tier below everywhere. Mewtwo also dropping from A+ to A in this, and also from A+ to A over here. It has seen a bit of play on the last patch, but the longer the patch is going on, the more it has just been disappearing from people actually playing the Pokemon actively. Besides that, I think I'm still quite happy with the rest of this list. Checking a few more times to make sure that everything is where I want it to be. Maybe Mimikyu should... I mean, Path and Mimikyu I'm still not a big fan of. It's only really good if you have an XP share support, but Mimikyu is just a broken Pokemon right now. Man, Mimikyu is frustrating, but I don't like it in A+, though. I don't. You know, it's ST in Central Area for a good reason. I think Trick Room is quite good on top and bot path, but I don't know if it's higher than this, really. Blaziken again got another Overheat nerf, which I think Blaziken is just a good Pokemon, doesn't matter what. It just does a lot. And not having a Unite move is good and bad at the same time. But you never really have to wait for Unite to come back up. You can just always fight. And you can see the Pokemon that need help, like Scizor, Aegislash, nothing happened to them. They're still the same. They didn't get buffed. Instead, yeah, I mean, they didn't get buffed, so they stay down. So some things have changed. Psyduck as well is still like easily S tier, even though we have Disable being nerfed. I think the passive of Psyduck is just too strong. It goes also into the headache mode way too easily. Like it just pops into the headache mode so fast, so easily, and it really doesn't matter whatsoever that Disable got a bit nerfed. It was very broken, and now it's still super good. Doesn't matter what. And the rest, I mean, maybe Darkrai isn't S tier anymore when it comes to a certain playing the game, but whenever I play Dark Void and Dark Pulse, and also its Unite move, it still feels very annoying and very hard to deal with. Miraidon, by far the best attacker Pokemon, because it has a Speedster build, and you can decide, do the enemies have a lot of, like, you know, range? I can still also go for Charge Beam, outrange them. Otherwise, I just zoom around with Electro Drift and just have a good time, right? I think overall, I'm pretty happy with this tier list. Sometimes I know I have some questionable placements, but these are one of the tier lists where I feel like I'm very confident in the placement of these Pokemon. Maybe Cerulege A is a bit too high still, but no. Actually, no, I don't think so. Whenever I see Cerulege, they can still pop off and run you down. It's just, laning it can be a bit difficult sometimes. Zeraora A Plus might be a bit high, but I do think Spark and Discharge is one of the most underrated builds in the entire game. Especially in Ranked and Solo Queue. This is not like a tournament tier list or anything, right? It's for us, for 90% of the player base who just plays Ranked, alone in a duo or trio, and I think Spark, Discharge, Zeraora is quite underrated. Let me know in the comments if you agree and what you disagree with. As always, I'm curious to read your guys' comments, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye!